Hey YouTube, I've had a couple questions about this enclosure, so it's going to be the third video of my MPCNC series. MPCNC is the mostly printed CNC by Alted. You can find more on v1engineering.com. This video actually would apply to more than just the CNC, to that particular CNC. Any CNC enclosure could make use of the knowledge and data from here. I'm showing mine here. I've got, it's very basic. It's just 2x4s, MDF, pink insulation panels, and then purple acoustic panels. When I first saw an enclosure built, I saw it from some old guy coding from his channel. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, number one, it was awesome, but I thought, I'm never going to need one of those. I don't get the purpose of building it. He mentioned all the benefits, but I just didn't understand. Again, I'm coming from a 3D printer background, so I had no idea what I was getting into. A lot of his ideas I implemented. For instance, the top of this is not locked down to the bottom. You can pick up the entire top of this and take it off. There's two reasons for that. One is it allows you to work on the machine. Two is it allows you to cut long pieces of wood or things that would normally not fit in the machine. So that was a design consideration. Three reasons that you build an enclosure. One is for noise reduction. Two is for dust reduction. And three is for organization. Gives you a place to hang things. You can see I've got my glasses, I've got my hearing protection. My bits are actually mounted up on a magnetic holder. This is super nice, makes it very easy to just grab things, pull them down, organize them, reset them up there. Having a bunch of wood in here makes things mounting things very easy. Things like cable runs, you can just very easily mount it. LED lights directly above your work, so you have a nice bright spot. Your Z cable mount, so you can see I've got my vacuum cable as the bottom one. The top one here is wires coming off both my Z motor and my spindle. So I can very easily organize those. This gives you a bit of a view of how it was built. I've got this pink insulation foam in the back, which is actually doing the sound dampening. And then this purple acoustic foam, I want to be honest, it's really for looks. I think it does help a little bit, but it's really not designed for that. It's designed to prevent echoes. I think one of the main things it does is makes the CNC less of a whine, so it's less high-pitched screaming. But really, to sound dampen something, you want to put thickness between whatever's creating the sound and the vibration and your ears. So on the bottom here, I've doubled up. I've just put 2x4 pieces and stuff like this. This goes into the first thing I would change if I were to do it again. Because I'm realizing that the way to really dampen the sound would be to add thickness, I would add MDF, a second layer of MDF all the way around. The problem with that is it would make it quite a bit heavier, and I wanted to be able to make it removable. So the other thing I would do is add handles on the outside, probably about here on either side, so that two people could grab a good handhold on it and pick it up. I doubled up on the panels on the front here, and I didn't try to make this perfect or anything. I honestly didn't even know if it was going to work. It works quite well. I'll show you the numbers here in a second. This chain was something I slapped on at the end because you can see my garage door is behind this. One day the hinge on the door opened all the way up, the garage door closed, and it hit the top of my setup here. So that added the chain to keep it from opening up too far. This is a magnet trick I tried to do for making a magnetic closure. Just slapped a magnet in there. It didn't work, but that's fine. I can put a latch on the outside here. That's part of what I'm working on for finishing it off. Two simple hinges on the outside there. And then I've got a window on this side with little latches here, so I can put the MDF I cut out back in and latch it in and regain the sound absorption I lose by having just the plexi. But you're going to want a window somewhere so you can look in while you're cutting. And you're going to want to make it big enough to get a good vantage point of what's going on. I can pretty much see anything that's going on in there, which is really nice if something does go wrong. Electronics wise, I've got a power bank outside here, or sorry, power strip. And then I run this to a second power strip that controls the spindle and the, I have a fan in here. This fan I use to run air across my workpiece to keep dust blowing away. It works pretty well. I was worried about it catching fire because it was blowing basically oxygen onto something that was getting carved, but it actually has been keeping the spindle cooler and keeping dust out of the way and helping more than it's hurt. The nice thing about having this set up like this, where the spindle's on there, is I can individually power the spindle on and off. Also, if I hit this red button, it's like an emergency stop. It shuts power down to everything. One thing I would have did differently is mounted it so that this control panel, which also has its emergency stop button, I would have liked to have had this coming off the front, so I should have not mounted. Let's see if I can get back there. That purple box is all my electronics. All my wires and axes run out to that box. I thought putting it in the back corner would keep all the wires away, but really it just makes it a pain to get to. And this box, because it runs off of the Rambo board, is just a bit further away than I would like. Another thing I would change, you can see under here, this is my dust collection system, and it actually is higher. I didn't account for it when I built this, so it's higher than my shelf. I'm not sure how I would fix that, but I wish I would have accounted for it. I may just have to do a slight adjustment. You can see the bottom here, the shelf is real basic. It's just a MDF shelf on some 2x4s. Those 2x4s help frame it out. Eventually I'll put 2x4s on the feet and add wheels possibly. Though I've been told that that could be a good or a bad idea. Right now I'm using carpet sliders to move it around. All right, so now that I've shown the enclosure, let me switch over and let me show you we're real high tech here. We've MS Paint, we've got some Notepad going. What I want to show you is the sound volume levels. Here we go. So the sound volume is measured in decibels, and it's measured in what's basically a logarithmic scale. What that means is that the difference between two lower numbers and two higher numbers is vastly different by an order of magnitude. So if I were to say the difference between 40 decibels and 50 decibels in loudness is not nearly as much as 100 decibels and 110 decibels. So that's super important to know when you're looking at these numbers. When you see differences of 5 or 6 on the low end versus 5 or 6 on the high end, 5 or 6 decibels from the high end is quite a bit of sound dampening. I got this chart here that kind of gives you an idea, and I'll be referring back to it so that we can look up and get an idea what these decibels mean. So the way to read this chart, I've got just a quick chart on the left, but really this is the data you're going to care about. Ambient is what the room has with nothing going on. So it's 40 decibels, and if we look down, we see that's like light rain or a whisper. Basically anything in the room will create some noise, even me picking up the phone. So 40 decibels is our baseline quietest that we normally would go. The fan that I showed inside that blows air across is 64.8. So you get a 22 decibel, just under a 22 decibel increase just turning on that fan. It's a 120 millimeter fan, but it's not very loud, but it gives you an idea of how quickly you can jump 20 decibels on the low end. And this goes back to what I was explaining about it being logarithmic. But I also wanted to give you kind of an idea. Okay, if I turn on a small fan, I'm at 64. If you turn on the router with the enclosure off and you have the phone right up to the router, it's 100.7 decibels. This is a motorcycle riding sporting event. This is pretty loud. It's pretty loud. I mean, you wouldn't want to put your ear up to a motorcycle, so thus you'd wear your hearing protection. The router on its own, if I have the enclosure open and I have the phone at the door of the enclosure, so let me show it what I mean. This is 100 if I'm right up on the router. If I go back to the door here, this is about 86. So I lose 20 decibels just backing the phone away from there to here. But 86 is still incredibly loud. It requires hearing protection, and it's passing diesel trucks, so it's not something you want your ear to have going on for hours with your ears nearby. Router behind one door means if I'm in the other side of the door from my garage. So you can see I dropped from 86 to 75 with the router alone with the door closed. So we go down to a toilet flushing. We go down to green where we don't need hearing protection necessarily, though I still wear it when I'm that close. And then if we take one door and we're on the other side of it, we go down to 55s and 40s. So light rain, quiet office. What this means, if I'm in the middle of the room on the other side of the door, or I'm sorry, not just on the other side door, if I walk a little bit further in the middle of the room, I can't hear the router over a television. So if I'm watching TV, I actually use the webcam that I have in there to actually see what's going on because I can't hear what's going on. And this was pretty much the goal. I wanted to get to a point where I could be upstairs in the bedroom, laying down watching TV, or I could be in the other room watching TV or working on the computer and not have this constant whine going. The return on investment, the further away you get, the bedroom is directly upstairs from the garage. The return on investment looks like it goes down because the difference between 40 and 37 doesn't feel like a lot. But really, if somebody's trying to go to sleep and you've got that ambient room about 40, 42, getting it down a bit is really, really nice. You know, it's one of those things, if you're trying to go to sleep and you hear a sink on, it can be enough to keep you awake. It's not loud, but it's enough to keep you awake. So getting it down that 37 range is really handy. And you can see we're talking just under a light rain and between a light rain and a whisper. So I guess that was a really long answer to the question of, does this thing work? I wasn't sure if it would, but absolutely it does. It makes a huge difference on sound. The other difference is dust. It's very easy to clean this out, to vacuum it. So everything stays fairly clean, well, except for the purple panels, which get sawdust all over them. But when I first used the CNC, I didn't expect the type of dust it kicks out. It's not sawdust. It's a very fine granule dust, and it goes everywhere, and it's so light it goes through the air. My entire garage and my wife's car, like everything in my garage had a layer of dust on it the first day I cut, and I had the CNC across the room and thought it would be fine, and basically I created a dust cloud in the garage. I actually started choking on it, so it kind of opened my eyes to you know, and again, I was learning feeds and speeds. I didn't have a good speed going. I was basically vaporizing the wood and throwing it up in the air. And so this enclosure keeps everything in there. It keeps the dust, it shards. If I break a bit, that gets stuck in there. If I get to where I want to cut aluminum, then the aluminum shards, the metal shards will stay in there. So there's a lot of protection having this, and a lot of dust reduction, which is super nice. Finally, of course, organization. I've got all my bits up there, which is super handy. I've got like little cubbies in the corner. I can throw my things, like I have my tape measures there. This is my webcam that I use to remotely monitor it or to do time lapses. And just having wood all over the place allows me to just nail stuff up, and which is nice. The table itself was 3 feet by 3 feet. So the measurements of all this was basically whatever it would take to keep it 3 feet by 3 feet. I think my crossboards are 3 feet. And then I cut 5 inches off going the other way to make things match up. Let me go to my gallery of, I've got a gallery of photos. I can show what this looked like as we put it together here. So let's see. Oh, I didn't have them loaded. Maybe I did. Ah, here we go. Okay. So this is this is not the table, actually. This is the top. And the reason I built it this way, again, I'm not a woodworker. I didn't have a design for this. I just kind of made it up as I went along. But I knew I wanted to attach flat pieces of MDF to this, so I wanted these flat. So I had a lot of room to screw onto. I also, on these cross beams, I knew I needed 2 cross beams top and bottom so that these would be level. and I can attach an MDF board along the bottom here. What that would do is that 2x4 depth there gave me insulation room to put this insulation. It would slot in. Then I could slot it in here along this MDF, and it would be basically makes it level with the 2x4s. Gives you kind of a nice clean look. This is it a bit more fleshed out. As I'm starting to attach the MDF, I started doing some reinforcements. This is the table pulled out from the corner. This is the original table I had. I got the shelf on there, started doing my organization, had my electronics all wrapped up. This is why my electronics aren't where I expected them to be. Is it worked great in this situation. It wasn't until I put the lid on that the Rambo board wasn't where I would have placed it, which would be right here. Another thing I want to mention, actually, as I look at this, my drag chains, my drag chain here was on the edge. When you're building, if you're going to build an enclosure, make sure your drag chains and everything on the outer edges are in a bit so that you have room to put your 2x4s on your enclosure. I had to remount my drag chains. This is it set on top. I basically crawled under the enclosure, bent over, lifted it up on my back, and then tossed it on top of here. I recommend having 2 people do this. The other thing I recommend is building in handles on the bottom, 2 handles on either side, so you've got a nice way to grab it. And maybe doubling up on your MDF. I think you'll get a lot better sound absorption there. So you can see this is starting to come together. Let's see here. Oh, I might actually be at the end of the photo gallery here. Okay. Let's see if I can do it this way. Oh, I guess that was, oh no, here we go. This is the photo I wanted to show. This is the beginning of laying the insulation in there. You just use a straight knife and cut through there. And you can, fill the gaps as you need. And then when you cover it with the acoustic foam, you can really clean this up. This is the beginning of the acoustic foam, and because this kind of leveled off here, I could put a little bit more foam. Then I can put the acoustic foam top to bottom and really make this look clean on the inside. So it's not that the design was super clean, it's just that I covered it with a lot of pretty purple foam. I went purple because it matched the PLA on my CNC. I'll just go back and show that. So I used purple PLA because I had a lot of it. And then I ended up liking the look of the purple and white. And so then I started trying to match everything. So this is why I have purple sound absorption. This is why I have purple drag chains that I printed instead of bottom. I was trying to match everything up. Then I ran out of purple and I had blue. And so all of my hold downs are a translucent blue. But it actually it's hard to show the translucency there, but it took a lot of PLA to print those, and that's what I had a lot of left. So, all right, so now let me go back and make sure I had a little checklist. I want to make sure that I've covered everything. Here we go, notepad, super high tech here. Things to do. Oh, the vacuum. Yeah, so my vacuum is a little shop vac that says it's quiet. This thing is louder than my spindle. Or the DeWalt 660 router I'm using. So this bottom part here, I would basically fill that in and enclose it with MDF eventually to cover the vacuum. Right now I run it, I'll run it without the vacuum to keep things quiet, or if I'm running on the weekends and I can be as loud as I want, I'll turn the vacuum on, but then I go back to having hearing protection because it's that loud. Pegboards on the outside is something I'm considering for this wall here on those sides. It would allow me to mount the screwdrivers and hammers and some of the other tools I showed in my last video. I'm thinking about decorating it or painting it, or oh, I have a pull handle. So I printed this. I wanted to do it Star Wars themed. So I printed this as the handle that will eventually go here on the outside. I just need to figure out a good way to mount it. And I thought that'd be a really slick handle and kind of help with that theme and get really fancy. But I got more excited about cutting wood than decorating this. So as you see, I've left everything stock. So. Things I wish I did better. So I've heard that old rug remnants are amazing for sound absorption and sound dampening. I wish I had tried that. Pretty much came a bit far once I put the purple stuff up, but something that if you're building, you might want to test out. It's also cheap if you get carpet remnants, so you can probably save a lot of money there. Wish I doubled up in wood. I wish I'd done 2 layers of MDF. It would have made it heavier, which is why I didn't do it, but I think the sound absorption would have been even better than what I ended up with. Run wire in the front corner I talked about. This is where I would have run the Rambo off the front instead of the back. And factored in dust collector height. Yeah, my dust collector, there it is, above my shelf. So there might be some hacks I can figure out there, but really I wish I had factored that in. All right, that's my longest video yet, and I hope I didn't bore you to tears. I hope I gave you the things that you would need if you wanted to build this. Again, it's just a 3 foot by 3 foot cube, which isn't much different than what my table was. So, you know, if you have questions, leave them in the comments. Let me know, and I'll help you out. Oh, sourcing of the purple stuff, sourcing of the acoustic foam. So the coolest thing about this is you can get different colors. This is a red and black. You can get all red. You can get all sorts of different colors. This is purple and black, and then this is the purple I went with. So it shows us $20. I want to get this in the video. This is what you would search for to find exactly what I got. It's, again, I did it for looks. If you want to try to get soundproofing from your foam tiles, and you're not looking for just looks, I would do a little bit more research and see if you can get something better than this. This will help with the reflection of sound, and like I said, make it less whiny, but it's not going to necessarily make it quiet. One thing you do not want to do is just add this and expect to get anything useful as far as soundproofing. The insulation foam is really where I'm getting mine from. One other quick tip before I go, and safety tip, is this is insulation foam for houses. It's got a fire resistance rating, which is good. Good to have. The reason I say that is some people say, hey, if you want to get sound absorption, just add egg crates. Well, egg crates are very flammable. And, you know, having a CNC, I'm always considering the concern of basically a kindling maker in there. And adding a bunch of stuff on the outside that would make it flammable when I'm likely to not be watching it the whole time seems really dangerous. One other thing that I'll be doing shortly is adding a smoke alarm inside of here. I think that would be really handy to have, and a good safety measure. And possibly mounting my fire extinguisher to the side of it, though right now I just keep it at the door of the garage. Okay guys and gals, thanks for watching. Thanks for the comments, thanks for the thumbs ups, thanks for subscriptions, and please tell your friends. This one, like I said, should work for things other than the MPCNC, any CNC router enclosure. It also would work for a 3D printing enclosure if you had a huge 3D printer, though there are definitely better options there. The IKEA ones have been really slick looking with the lighting and such in them. Have a good one, and until the next video.